Hello, and welcome to an intro to Anthro with two humans. I'm human number one, John McCray.
And I'm human number two, John Lehr.
And this is the podcast where we reassess what it means to be human. And the title of this episode is Hardtack, Spotted Dog, and Suet Pudding, Haute Cuisine on the High Seas.
Oh, Jesus. This is gonna be a rough one. This one's gonna be a rough one.
Yeah, I know. I've actually, my office smells awful right now.
Oh, really? Yeah, mine too. I have a bunch of bowls all with warm stuff in them.
Yeah. We're going to be looking at an authentic cuisine from 1805 British naval.
And this is my fault. This is all my fault.
This was your call. But first off, John, we need to, we're a little late for this one because you've been sick.
I've been sick. And, this one was, I don't know what it was, but it had everything. Had everything. Yeah. It had the fever. It had the diarrhea. It was horrible, just horrible. And I was just bedridden, and it tested negative for COVID.
That's
twice.
Weird. Yeah,
but I think it was COVID. I just think maybe I have an old test that don't test this. I don't know.
Right.
But it was just horrid. And then I kind of felt good enough to travel to Chicago. Yeah. And that was a stupid error in terms of my sickness. So it just lasted. And I still have kind of an upper respiratory thing. So I've decided, and I think, that I'm a runt. I am not meant to live. I'm making peace with this. I used to always think, I'm fine. I'm fine. No, I'm not fine. My gene pool should have been eliminated, and it hasn't. And now I'm here. So I think I'm one of those guys. As soon as I feel sick, I'm turning over a new leaf. As soon as I feel sick, I'm going to the doctor. I'm going to be one of those guys.
In Disney movies, the runt, or like children's movies, the runt always ends up being like they're the hero. They always end up.
Not in real life. The runt ends up getting eaten by the saber-toothed tiger. Only we don't have those anymore. But because I used to always write it out, because, we grew up with not a lot of money. Yeah. And unless your arm fell off, you didn't go see the doctor. But now I'm going to turn into one of those guys. Because here's what happens. I start to get sick, and then it's too late to see the doctor.
Did you go see the doctor this time? You didn't go see the doctor. I think we checked in periodically, and you said you hadn't been to see the doctor.
I had not been to see the doctor. Should have. Yeah. But by then it was like, I couldn't even move.
Yeah.
There was a moment where I thought I was going to go to the hospital.
Wow.
Yeah.
What did you do for the whole day? Just lay in bed and did you look at your phone or anything? Or did you?
I don't know. I just kind of, what did I do? I would read a little on my phone, but my eyes hurt, and I was just.
You said the headache was really bad. You told me the headache was
throughout the whole thing. I just
wanted to lose some weight with it. With it.
I did. I noticed that this morning.
Your face looks thinner. Your face looks thinner.
Yeah.
Glass half full.
I'm ready. I got plenty of room for some crazy ass food.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm glad you're feeling better, because I have a feeling this food's going to make us sick.
Yeah. This isn't going to end well.
So a little backstory on this. This is our 60th episode.
Happy
so congratulations.
60.
Yeah.
Happy 60. God, we're still going. Sickness and health and all of it.
We're going to go right up till the end. Right up till I think we do. We joke about it.
Record the last one on your deathbed. And then in the end, I'll just put $2 $50 on your eyes and walk out.
Yeah. That's
it. That'll be our last post.
Yeah, and then at the very end, it'd be like how they bring it up, like in memory of John McCray.
Yeah.
Like he was just on there.
Speaking of, a dear friend passed away recently, Eric Gilliland, very funny writer, very good friend, very sweet man. Listen to this. And he just passed away from cancer. And I just wanted to do a shout out. And, this is for you, Eric. We're thinking of you.
Thank you, Eric,
good
for
man,
everything.
Real good man. Yeah.
You won't be forgotten.
No,
you won't be forgotten.
He will not. Funny as shit. Wrote for Roseanne and a ton of shows. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yep. Good man.
So anyway, thank you to everybody for listening to our show, by the way.
I know.
For 60.
60. God. I didn't think we had it in us, but we did.
I know. And also it's just been so great meeting people online and having people send stuff in, and
it's so funny getting people's comments, and it means a lot. We read them all and it means a lot.
Yeah. And I'll still say, I think the people who listen to our show just kill me. They just kill me. They're so funny and so smart.
Yeah.
And
it's a very narrow demo. Unfortunately for us. But that demo is sweet. It's just sweet.
It's narrow, but it's deep. It's deep.
It's deep to the bone.
Yeah. And at some point, I'd love to have all of you guys on to just talk to you and see what you're doing with those big human brains of yours. Because
it's funny you say that, because we are getting close to a little merch store.
Yeah.
Which people have been asking us to do it, and we've finally gotten it together. And then next on the list is we're going to do a little
just show you.
Ooh, look at him. Oh my God.
Just so you guys know, the store is almost up.
Almost. We're almost there. Oh my God, that looks so great. Yeah. I love it. For those of you listening, he just held up a t-shirt with our graphic on it, which is just awesome. Our graphic designed by the very talented Jeff Whitell.
Right.
And but we're also gonna I'm been working on the Patreon thing where we can have like group chats in there, like video chats. Be great. Yeah. So maybe we could do like a little extra lab session for people.
Yeah. That would be great. A breakout
room. Exactly.
But anyway, thank you again, everybody. We really appreciate it, and we love you guys. And thank you to Watson and Company Socks and Puppies Not Piranhas on Etsy.
Amazing.
And also our listeners, Michael and Ann in New York, who sent us those Bigfoot keychains.
Oh my God, those keychains are awesome. I hope my son took it immediately.
Oh yeah.
When you're a father, anything that you have that's good gets taken from you. But I'll get it back from him.
I hope we make you guys proud, and if we don't, we'll send back all the stuff you sent us.
Yes. Yeah. It's so great to be able to promote stuff that you really like. Speaking of, in my care package,
that's right.
I got my friendship bracelet.
You got to put it on, man.
I am. I was.
But you lost weight. It'll fit. It'll fit.
It fits perfectly. Not only am I promoting the show, and I have a beautiful piece of jewelry, but now I'm a Swiftie too. I could go into the.
You got the whole.
We start the
puppies. Puppies not piranhas.
Puppies not piranhas.
All right. So moving on, as we know, every 20. I think you were the one that started this. Every 20th episode, we do a food episode.
Oh God, what was I thinking? Terrible idea.
So we did the paleo diet where we ate a tarantula and some bugs.
Oh, the tarantula was rough. That was rough.
Yeah.
God, that was rough.
Yeah, I didn't develop a taste for that.
No.
I thought I would start binging on those.
And the texture and the hairiness, it just, oh God, that was rough. That was rough.
Waxy abdomen. That's all I can say.
Yeah. There you go. Anthrax. Or whatever it is.
And then we did also the Roman banquet, authentic Roman banquet.
Yes, we did.
With garum fish sauce.
The fish sauce was just horrid. If we didn't have the fish sauce, it wasn't bad.
I know.
But the fish sauce, Jesus. Yeah. Fermented fish sauce.
Yeah. And I still have that. I think I still have that bottle in my.
Me too.
Throw that out.
I have it. I got to get rid of it because somebody might use it.
Yeah, I don't read
like poison.
speak Spanish that well, but I could read on there where it was saying in Spanish on the bottle, like throw it out after 60 days.
Okay. Done and done. The bottle's so cute, though.
I know. And then we also had, remember the homemade Lucanian sausages,
Yes,
which
we
you
did.
enjoyed.
Homemade by you.
I know.
They were delicious. Those were good.
That was a lot of work grinding up that meat. Did it old style.
God.
And this one, John, was your idea. This episode was your idea, which
I'm so sorry.
10 months ago, I'm not sure if you said to me, I wish we could do something like the old Navy, old British naval ships.
I was reading a series of historical novels, and it was all about, it was very detailed, very well researched, you know. So everything, they would talk about the food and the stuff, and I was just fascinated by it.
And that's the Master and Commander series, right? Is that what it was?
Yeah, Patrick O'Neill. I highly recommend it. It's just great. It's candy. It's just like pure candy.
I was a little daunted when you first said that. So I spent like months like looking around. Every once in a while, I like go online. I do some research on JSTOR or wherever, just trying to find like food of the British Navy. I was thinking I'd have to go to some museum and look in their archives or something. And then I finally just typed it in to Amazon, like historical British naval food. And it came up with a book called Feeding Nelson's Navy, The True Story of Food at Sea in the Georgian Era by Janet MacDonald. So she had written a book about it.
You nailed it. That's exactly Nelson's Navy. That's what we're after.
I know. I was making it harder than it needed to be. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Janet MacDonald, she also wrote the book about the historical British Army food. Called From Boiled Beef to Chicken Tikka, 500 Years of Feeding the British Army.
Oh, I love chicken tikka. I love a chicken tikka.
Well, maybe we'll come back to it.
I've never met a chicken tikka I didn't like.
I thought about doing both British Army and Navy food, and then once I got into it, I realized this is going to be, as you could tell, with the spread that we have before.
I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bowls with heated food in it.
I know. We'll get to it. I also made hardtack. You know, I made hardtack.
Yes, you did. I have that. I'm fully ready here.
All right. So, just a little background on Feeding Nelson's Navy. It's a great book. Janet MacDonald. It's thoroughly researched. It's a great sense of humor about it. And then also, she has a section at the back with all the recipes.
Oh, boy.
All the recipes of the food, which is where we got our food today that I made and sent out.
Wow. Well, it's not possible for you to outdo yourself because you're already at a 10 in all categories. But I guess you've done yourself again. You know, it's another 10.
Yeah. Well, I don't know where we go after this.
No,
we may be running. You know, we may be running for the bathroom after this. I don't know. Some of this stuff is pretty. I hope you like salt and flour. I hope you like salt.
I do. I do like salt. Who doesn't? The two most incredible inventions. They're more important than the wheel.
Yeah.
Seriously.
It's a lot of salt, a lot of flour, and then you boil it in a pudding bag, which is
God.
I had to contact a guy on eBay up in Newfoundland to get us authentic pudding bags, English pudding bags.
I'm holding this up right now. It looks like kind of like cheesecloth, maybe.
Yeah, it's kind of, but
it's thicker.
You would make.
Oh, it's a bag.
Kind of make, whatever you do it, then you put it in there. I'm holding up a cloth bag.
Yeah,
and then they would tie it with this.
Okay, sure.
And then you would boil that. And that would make an authentic English pudding. And that's what they would eat that a lot. So we'll get to that later.
Yorkshire pudding. I love Yorkshire pudding, but that's the only English pudding I've had.
I wonder, that's probably boiled in a bag as well, I think.
Yeah.
I would think. But
it's biscuity, you know? It might be fried somehow. I don't know. Okay. Or baked? Maybe baked.
whenever they talk about like Scrooge or any of the Victorian movies or plays, they always talk about a Christmas pudding. A Christmas
Yes.
pudding is a
Yes.
boiled pudding like that.
Ooh.
So,
Ugh.
And so going on, you had mentioned already Patrick O'Brian, Master and Commander. He wrote the books. They take place during the Napoleonic Wars from approximately 1800 to 1815.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, there were wars going on between revolutionary and Republican France, which then became the French Empire under Napoleon.
Yep.
And there had always been periodic wars between France and England for a few hundred years. But this was like during the period where Napoleon controlled the continent of Europe, but Britain controlled the seas. Yeah. And so these books follow the careers, and you know them better than I do, of Jack Aubrey, British naval captain, and then Stephen
on sea, but a loser on land. That's his one liner.
Been there, brother. Been there, brother.
Yep.
And then also Stephen Maturin.
That's how I pronounce it.
He's the ship's doctor.
Who also has some secrets, and I don't want to blow it for anybody. Yeah. He's a very interesting character.
But I think he's broke, right? Or that's a reason why.
Yes, and then you find out later. Yeah, anyway, he's very interesting. He has a great arc in that. But it's really kind of a study on, male friends. Just.
We should do a live show of it. You and me. We should.
It's just two men getting along, not getting along, and forced together. Yeah, it's kind of anyway. It's good. I like.
It's the ship's captain and the ship's doctor. It's like Steubing and Doc. Like
I thought you were going to go Kirk and McCoy, but no. Oh my God!
You get rid of Gopher and Julie and Isaac. You don't need those guys. The real meat of the story is Steubing and Doc.
Who loved to tie one on. Doc, and a ladies' man too.
Oh yeah, all the horrible things that probably actually went on the Love Boat.
Exactly. Yeah, on the Love Boat.
In 2003, they actually made a movie of this.
Yes, not bad.
With Russell Crowe and Paul Bettany playing the two lead characters.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I watched it just because I was reading the books. I thought I'd watch it, and I liked it. They mix they take a little bit of the first book, a little bit of the last book, a little bit of, but yeah, I thought it was shot well, and you get a sense of the ship. They're not that big. Yeah. And all these, 100 sailors to run the damn thing.
I tried watching it again last night. It's like a 2 hour and 20-minute long movie.
Yeah. Well, it takes itself seriously. But isn't it interesting? The ship itself is so fascinating. All those people having to get along in close. With the rats and the Jesus. It just looked horrid.
Mary was going to watch it with me. It's very detailed. A lot of shots of Russell Crowe, like up at the front of the ship, like hanging on to a rope, looking out at the sea and stuff.
The books are like that too. A lot of going up high and hanging onto a rope and looking for a ship.
Yeah, but it's one of those historical. I don't know how well it did because I think it came out around the same time as Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh boy, the opposite, the exact opposite.
And whereas like this movie was like very historically accurate, obviously Pirates of the Caribbean took a little more liberties with.
When you're basing a movie on a ride at Disneyland.
But for historical fiction, it's important to have. You got to have your facts right. Like people take that seriously. People that are into it
with ships and that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
people get serious.
Yeah, it reminds me. At one time, I was in Galena, Illinois, years ago, And Galena, Illinois was, I think it's on the Galena River, but it was a riverboat port back in the 1800s.
Mm.
It's in western Illinois. And there was talk back in mid 1800s that maybe it would be bigger than Chicago one day.
Uh-huh.
Because Galena, Illinois had two things going for it. It had the lead mines, which is Galena means lead in Latin.
Okay.
And they had the riverboats. And what they did in a period of about 10 years in the middle of the 1800s is they mined out all the lead, which caused the hills to collapse into the river.
Oh, no.
And basically both of the industries that were going to make it bigger than Chicago were destroyed.
Destroyed each other. And they all died of lead poisoning, I'm sure, too. Jesus.
But I picked up a book when I was there by a guy who was writing at the same time as Mark Twain, Samuel Clemens. And this guy, whereas Samuel Clemens kind of told stories about the Mississippi River and riverboats to kind of be, kind of like the people and the adventure and stuff. This guy was very precise about his book. And so he would write like, how much pressure you needed in your boiler, how much weight you to put on the bales of corn or whatever that to put on your ship and everything. And I'm sure people said the same thing to him at the time of like, you need to kind of put something a little more fun in there.
Put a little Tom Sawyer in there.
Yeah.
Put a little portion of the fence.
Right. And I'm sure he was like, no, I got to keep it, it's got to be accurate. It's going to be, so it's like just chapters in his book about going down and like how to replace the stern wheel and all this stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. People get deep into this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I feel like watching this. It was like a lot, and they had made that ship and everything. So a lot of shots just going through the whole of the ship. I loved it. I don't know.
It's so crazy just to think about people doing that out.
Yeah.
And most of them couldn't swim. Most of the sailors couldn't swim.
That's awful. It's
just like, wow.
I got into the equivalent for the British Army in the Napoleonic Wars is Sharp's rifles.
Yes, I have that on my list. Because you mentioned it. And I was like,
It's the same thing. It goes on for, 20 some odd books or something. And it follows a British a soldier, starts out as like a private, and then he goes out. It says over years and years goes up and down in rank.
Yeah.
And that one's written by Bernard Cornwell. But it's kind of the same thing. And then they made that into a series with Sean Bean.
Yes. Yes, a BBC thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would, I really, when I was going through my divorce years ago from my first wife, I really got into Sharp's rifles, and I would binge those.
Yes.
And so I always say that if I ever met Sean,
to deaden the pain. Because you were sober, you didn't have alcohol, thank God.
All I had were these English series that I would check out at the library. But I always say, if I ever met Sean Bean, the first thing I would ask him would be all about,
Sharp's
not Lord of the Rings.
You can imagine him just going, oh no, I ran into another one of these guys. It's like when you're on Star Trek or something.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm curious.
When you were doing Sharp's rifles, there was a scene where you... So anyway, John, we are going to say that for the purposes of today's meal, we're going to say that our voyage is taking place somewhere between 1803 to 1805.
Okay. That's pretty
Which is
specific.
when Master and Commander starts out, and the movie says 1805.
Okay.
And Britain is at war with France, and we're going to say that we are sailing on a ship of the line.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So what was a ship of the line? Well, in an article titled "The Role of the Royal Navy in the Napoleonic Wars After Trafalgar, 1805 to 1814," David Surratt says that the Royal Navy's ships of the line were the heart of the British naval power.
Yes, the men of war. Man of war.
You're right.
Man of war. It's a killing machine.
Right, exactly, because it was the British strategy to use squadrons of ships of the line, this is Suet talking, to blockade enemy naval forces in the European ports.
Yeah. You don't tread on us.
So they were trying to keep the French Navy in the port. So the French
Mhm.
Navy hardly ever came out,
Yeah.
because they were outnumbered.
But they were fast. Their ships were fast, right? They had the corvettes.
Yeah.
They had some fast ships, but nothing that could withstand
And
the
not
English.
the numbers. The numbers of
Yeah.
British ships were, and I'll get into some of the actual numbers here. But Surratt says that what squadrons of ships of the Royal Navy were stationed at choke points of maritime trade. So the western approaches of the English Channel, the Strait of Gibraltar, and then
Mm.
scores of small British warships operated against enemy coastal trade.
Hmm.
So, but you couldn't. In other words, they were just out there waiting for any
Yes.
ship that tried to come up.
Because if
And
you took a ship, it was a prize. And when you
yeah,
brought it back and sold it, everybody got a piece of it. Everybody, the sailors, everybody. So they were all ready to just jump on those ships and cut everybody's throats, which is what they
yeah,
did.
profit sharing, a little bit of profit sharing.
Yeah.
And so, as we mentioned, Napoleon controlled all the land, so he could march wherever he wanted, and he had a lot of victories on land throughout
Yep.
Europe. But the
Hmm.
British Navy controlled the seas.
Yeah.
And Surratt says, Napoleon's armies were stopped at the coast by the Royal Navy. He says, but how do a shark and a tiger do battle? It's meaning one on
Ooh.
land and one on the sea. That's
Yeah.
Surratt talking.
Yeah, I like it.
Who do you think would who do you think would win
I
between a
think
shark and a
Napoleon would win ultimately, but because if you control the land, that you can't refit the ships.
yeah?
But he went into Russia. I don't know
I-
what he was thinking.
yeah,
He went into Russia and then forget about it. It's all over.
yeah, yeah. Uh, in his book, Hangings, Sinkings, and Trusting God, Life and Death on Board British Warships in the 1700s and 1800s, Peter Brent, in this book, this was a self-published book, and I loved it because it's just somebody who's really into British naval ships and has just done his own research and put it out there, his own photographs. Fantastic book.
I
So,
love that kind of stuff. I'm listening to a podcast that I want to have him on as a guest
oh yeah, yeah.
about the Ottoman Empire. That is just self-research. He's just great. He's just
Yeah,
great. We've got to have him on. He's
we
right
will
up
we
our
will do
alley.
that. That's
Okay.
our next step is
All
having
right.
a
Yeah,
bunch
I
of
know. Yeah, we're really expanding. Get ready, people.
let me get the t-shirts. Let me get the
We're,
t-shirts up first.
next thing you know, we'll be in stereo.
But Peter Brent says the ship or sail of the line was the most common type of fighting ship at the time. And he says the concept was simple to put as many guns as possible of the highest possible caliber on each ship. As ships were dependent on wind power, little tactical maneuvering was possible.
Mm.
So they were just out there kind of
It was all
doing what
about
they
not.
could.
It seemed like it was all about not making a mistake.
Yeah.
Like there wasn't much you could do, but you could screw it up and miss your stays or whatever. Or you could little mistakes like that would add up, and that's how they would catch each other, which is so
Yeah.
fascinating.
In the movie they talked about that too, where they were saying like they have the weather behind them or something.
Yes,
In other words,
the
like
wind,
you
the weather. What is it? Jesus, the weather gauge. We
the
got the
weather
weather
gauge,
gauge.
the weather gauge. That's what they were saying. And he says, Brent says that although much bigger ships existed, the most common size of ship of the line was the 74 gun.
Yes.
So that's
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. You got a bow chaser. You got a one on the front end that you'd have to
yeah.
clear the captain's cabin to bring that gun in when you were
Oh,
going to
the
war.
back to go out
Yeah.
the back to way.
Yeah, they did clear it and bring in a cannon. And then you got the rest of
Wow.
them on either side. Those
Yeah,
bad
and
ones.
in the article, the Royal Navy's defeated the French at sea in the years 1793 to 1815, John Christophe says that the British naval strategy emphasized engaging the French at every opportunity.
Yes.
And Suet even says that the British Navy had a doctrine of engaging the enemy gunport to gunport.
Yeah, they loved getting right up in there. They'd shoot a bunch of grape. I guess it was called grape. I assume that's like little balls with chains and stuff to like take out the sails.
Yeah.
And then they just come in hard with the lead, jump over and kill everybody. Unless you were an officer. Then you were treated like a gentleman. It's so crazy.
It's good to be king, I guess. Or good to be a nobleman.
Yeah.
Christoph notes that, like you're saying, the British, though, directed their gunfire. Their strategy was always to direct gunfire at the French hulls, the hull of the ship.
Mm-hmm.
And the French, on the other hand, they would shoot at the superstructure, meaning the sails and mast of the ship, which seems to me like that would be a little bit harder to hit that. But that was their strategy, was to try to
take it down.
Yeah.
Take down all the rope, just mess with it so they couldn't move.
Right.
They couldn't maneuver.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. There's lots of that in those books. We gotta get another jib up. Get the jib. They'd be, while being shot with cannon, they're like climbing up on these things, stringing these things. Jesus, what a life.
Those guys that would have to go up into the rigging or whatever.
Yeah,
and just hang out and hang on up there.
Yeah, and do stuff. Not just hang on. You got to do stuff. You're rigging stuff and pulling stuff up. It's crazy. And you can't swim.
Yeah.
You can't.
And you're way up there. It just like the rocking of the ship would be even more so up there.
Yeah.
Remember, we've talked about it before, but we did Billy Budd in high school.
Yes, we did. You were a Marine.
I actually played two characters. I was a sailor for a while, and then I switched over to a Marine later on.
Really? I don't recall that. I just remember you standing at attention for half the play. And McClintock loved you. Our drama teacher just oozed over you.
I was so deep. I was a method actor. I was so deep in my character that I can't remember. I saluted without somebody came on unexpectedly, and I saluted them, and I think that's what he.
Yeah, McClintock was. Yes. He hated me, but I had a great role. I had the.
Who was it again? Squeaks or something?
Yeah, I was kind of evil and weird and charactery. Classic role for me.
The lackey of the evil guy on the ship.
Yeah. I did I did what he wanted. Yeah.
Yeah. You were Wormtongue to his Saruman. So put that in perspective.
There you go. Yeah, nailed it.
But I remember, and I'm not sure if we've talked about the play before, but remember in the play, a guy falls out of the rigging.
Yes.
And so they had made, and it's kind of dark when it happens, but they drop a dummy out of the rigging. And so the props people had made a dummy of it look like the size of a man, but they had used a Clorox bottle for his head.
Oh my God, I'd forgotten about that.
So I remember, you always have one performance, like any live show, any run of it, where it just goes off the rails.
Yeah.
And that one, they dropped him off, it came time for the scene where they drop him out of the rigging. He hit the deck and then popped up to where he was sitting up. So everybody could see this Clorox bottle head, and he's just like looking out at the audience. And I remember like a bunch of us had to go up like we were concerned crewmen. Like, oh, lay down, man, lay down.
Yes, I remember that. I wasn't of any help during that. I was too busy overacting.
Just like with that Clorox, I always remember that Clorox bottle head just jauntily sitting up and
hello. Well, hello everybody, and the clunk that it made too. That clunk, it like bounced. I remember it happening.
Yeah.
You were the one who kind of said it right. Like you were the one who went in there and like took care of business.
Oh, I don't know, but it was like lay down, man.
Yeah. You're severely
Rest
injured.
thyself. Yeah. And so anyway, let's just go on. Christoph says that in 1793, England had 400 ships.
Wow.
Okay. Of which 115 were of the line.
Wow.
By comparison, France only had 246, of which 76 were of the line. So, and then, the number of the people in the British Navy increased from 24,000 in 1793 to 140,000 in 1814.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. And he says that the breakdown of these men were volunteers were 15%, pressed men. Remember, they would, like, if they needed people to work the ships, they would stop other ships and
grab them.
Yeah,
or stop
just
at
take
ports
people.
and just be like, guess what?
Yeah. So 50% of those were pressed men. Quota men, which were draftees, were 12%. Foreigners were 15%, and boys were 8%.
Yeah, a lot of boys.
Yeah.
A lot of boys, because they had to, everybody died so fast. They needed a constant young people learning how to do it all. Because there was a lot of math to all of this, navigation and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like sectents and all that craziness.
Yeah. And they, that was something that people would send their kid, like if you were a nobleman even.
Yeah.
You would send your kid out like 10 years old to be an officer on a ship.
Yep. And he'd come back with one arm after his cannonball blew off the, yeah. Or worse.
In the article, Royal Navy Impressment During the American Revolution, Roland Escher says that while large numbers of men volunteered, there were seamen who preferred merchant service and required persuasion.
Yeah,
so
I bet.
So you would make a little bit more money as a merchant seaman at the time.
Yeah.
But it was, I don't know, once you got on there, they wouldn't let you off. They were so worried about people deserting that they wouldn't let anybody go ashore.
No. And you couldn't swim. It was a floating prison and just a horrible life. And you're just pressed into it and you're stuck.
Yeah. Yeah. And Eric Crozier, in an article titled The British Navy in 1797, says, seamen, merchant sailors, schoolmasters, farmer lads, criminals, men of every age, class, and nationality lived herded together like cattle in semi-darkness and foul air of the lower decks.
Yeah, all in hammocks.
Yeah.
They only slept half the crew at a time because there wasn't room, and you needed the other half to work the night shift, Oh, boy. What a horrible, horrible life.
Yeah. It sounds really bad. And then also, they talk about, because you didn't have like a retirement or a pension.
Right.
There was like a little pension that people would put a little bit of money when they finally did get paid. Usually they'd wait to pay because they knew if they paid people, they'd desert.
Yeah. Or so they'd get drunk.
Yeah. So they would wait until the voyage was over to pay people. So it may be like 3 or 4 years, before you got paid.
You got money, Jesus.
And so without retirement from the service, you would have old guys on there too, like guys up into their 70s.
That's all they could do.
Yeah, Jesus. Working on this ship.
Oh God.
And then Crozier says naval pay had originally been fixed in 1652. At 19 shillings a month for an ordinary seaman. And that's a seaman with 1 to 2 years experience.
Okay.
And 24 shillings for an able-bodied seaman. That's somebody with 5 years of experience.
Okay.
So they had fixed that in 1652. A century and a half later, Crozier adds, in 1797, it was still the same pay.
Wow. Yeah. God, no, but they shared in these prizes. They did get that money. Like everybody would get a piece of the prize. And the lower guys, at least in the way O'Neill tells it, they would all get a piece of it, and it wouldn't be much by the time it got down to those guys, but still,
it was that way.
That happened. I wonder how often a prize happened.
I don't
in his
know.
books happens all the time.
Yeah.
But I wonder.
But I mean, can you imagine? I mean, they hadn't raised the pay for
Jesus,
150 years.
150 years.
Yeah. That'd be like us still getting paid now. Like, well, we're going to pay you the going rate and $60 for a month or something, you
Oh
know?
my God. Well, that
I
is
was
kind of
thinking
what I'm making right now with Hollywood
when,
shutdown.
when you average it out, when you think of all the hours you work,
Oh, yeah, for sure. For
you,
sure.
you'd probably be like, wow, that's
Yeah,
$1.50
I
for.
should have been on a ship.
So we mentioned already what they would withhold the pay for sometimes up for years. So in other words, what Crozier says is British seamen were essentially prisoners on their ship.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, uh, and the other thing that how do you keep everybody on the ship that way? It was discipline was extremely severe, like a lot of
Yeah.
beatings.
A lot of whippings and the
Yeah.
cat. They called it the
Oh
cat. I don't
yeah.
know. I don't know what that is, but it doesn't
Oh,
sound
the
good.
cat of nine tails. It's like a
Oh.
whip with like bits of metal on the leather straps on it,
Oh.
and then you would had nine, I guess nine of them, but it was the cat of nine tails. So that was the
No.
cat.
And you get lashings.
Yeah,
You get
yeah.
50 lashings. You took too much grog or whatever. Which, by the way, they were all drunk, weren't they? Like that was the
Well,
thing. They always had liquor because it was so
be,
miserable.
yeah, and the water was so bad. Like the
Right.
water would get slimy and it'd grow moss in
Ooh.
the barrels and stuff. So you
Oh.
had to have. Usually, the guy grog actually comes from a captain who he would wear what was called a grosgrain coat, which was like a thick, coarse coat. But I think they called him Old Grog, and that's where we got grog because he would
Wow.
mix his water with the rum
Ugh.
because that was the only way you could drink it. You would your last resort was to drink water on a ship.
Yeah. God, you'd hit the urine before you hit the water.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh. Oof.
And then also, I came across one that was called, it was an article by Arthur Gilbert, which was called Buggery in the British Navy, 1700 to 1861. And he talked about how common sodomy and buggery was on British ships at the time.
Well, that makes sense. And I'm not surprised to hear that at all.
Yeah, if you think you never get off the ship for years,
Mm-hmm.
like they won't let you go ashore. And it's so awful, and I'm sure it was some of it was. I'm hoping that most of it was consensual.
Doubtful.
Yeah, but they talk about that buggery was a capital offense in the British Navy until 1829, and the thing is that the British Navy. Gilbert says that the British Navy took pride in the training and discipline of its crews, and sodomy was seen as a breakdown of order. And I think there's that the Pogues, that Irish band, the Pogues, or I think they're actually from England, but of Irish descent. But they have that album called "Rum, Sodomy, and the Lash." Remember, and it's all
That's right. Those guys, the Pogues are great.
yeah, yeah. So now, John, we have a sense of what life was like on the British ship, and now we'll get to what they were eating.
Oh boy,
on the British ship.
Okay.
And in her book, Feeding Nelson's Navy, Janet MacDonald talks about the first things you encounter when you start to read about the Georgian Navy are all horror stories. The work of the press gangs, floggings, and the appalling food. And MacDonald, she actually, in her book, she tries to think, I don't know, she's like, I have my doubts as to whether the first two areas are as bad as they are painted, and I find it impossible to believe in the third. So she's a little skeptical of like how bad the food was and how bad everything.
Interesting.
Yeah. But Crozier does mention that there was a mutiny in April 1797 called the Spithead Mutiny, where the crews of 16 ships of the line, 16 ships in the Channel Fleet, so the majority of the Channel Fleet, refused to obey orders to set sail. and demanded better treatment and pay and food.
Whoa. Mutiny.
Yeah.
That takes guts. Were they all just slaughtered? They were probably all just slaughtered.
No, they say it was because it was so many ships, and the majority of the ships, when they were at war with France, that they actually acquiesced a little bit to some of their demands. Like they negotiated with them to get everyone, the ships going.
Power to the people. Unionize.
Yeah. And then MacDonald says that when it came down to it, the British ship was continuous hard work. The guns are very hard work indeed. Requires fit and healthy men. Men will only stay fit and healthy if they are fed well.
Yeah.
But she says that the standard ration that was given at the time gave an average daily intake of 4,500 to 5,000 calories per day.
Wow.
So
nothing.
Yeah. Well, now we say that we need 2,000 calories a day to live on. So this is like 2.5 times what we normally eat now. But she's saying that people had to work so hard.
Oh, I see. They were burning so much that they had to replenish, or they would just waste away.
Right.
Wow. Okay.
Right. So that's what a lot of the food was, just being stuffed in them to keep them, because they were sweating.
Carbs. Well, not really though, right? Well, we'll get into that. God, my office stinks.
I know it's awful. Imagine you're below deck right now.
Oh, I would never make it. No way.
The other thing she notes is that Georgian sailors did not have waterproof clothing. So a lot of the calories were also spent trying to stay warm. So if you can imagine, you got wet. Yeah. And she says that in really bad weather, it was too dangerous to light a fire in the kitchen. So like if the weather was bad, they went for, days without having a hot meal or, hot drink or anything.
Wet. God. Yeah.
And so, when you think about it, MacDonald says, how do you feed thousands of men, which we said that there was 140,000 people in the British Navy at the end of the Napoleonic Wars, that are afloat in ships which may not touch land for months at a time, where cooking facilities are very basic, where there are no refrigeration systems, and where food can be preserved only by salting, pickling, or drying. And she says, and the only bulk packaging materials were wooden casks and cloth bags. And so she says the answer, of course, is that you base the rations on foodstuffs which will tolerate preservation and remain edible for many months, like salt meat, dried peas, oatmeal, hardtack, a little butter and cheese, and then beer, wine, and watered spirits to wash it all down.
Man.
And so basically what her argument is, all of this stuff which we're about ready to eat and what they were serving, it was all based on durability rather than tasting good or even for nutritional value. It was more just, would it last in a barrel on a ship for...
Yeah. Will it last? Makes sense.
Yeah. And then just before we dive into this, John, a quick word about scurvy. David Suet notes that there were 3 major diseases to worry about on board ships, and that was smallpox, typhus, and scurvy. And scurvy actually comes from a deficiency of vitamin C. And Encyclopaedia Britannica notes that some of the symptoms of scurvy include fatigue, soreness, bleeding gums, loose teeth, bleeding under the skin and deep tissues, anemia, slow wound healing, changes in personality, and possibly death from slow bleeding.
Changes in personality. Wow. That's interesting.
Any of those sound familiar after your illness?
Yes.
That you had?
I check off quite a few of those scurvy.
How are your teeth? How are your teeth hanging in there?
My teeth are okay. They just fall out, but I put them right back in. They seem to stay in there.
For a long time, people thought, as we mentioned, that the food has a lot of salt in it.
Yes.
And so for a long time, people thought that scurvy may have been caused by the high salt diet that people were eating.
But
And it
no.
wasn't until 1799 that during the St. Vincent's close blockade of Brest, France in 1799, that they realized that if they prescribed or like had people eat lemons and oranges, it would take care of the scurvy.
Yeah. Lime in the books, they talk about lime juice.
Yeah, that's where I think they get the term limey. Like when you call
Oh,
an English
really?
person a limey was from
Whoa.
them eating lime juice for scurvy.
You didn't put that on the list. We don't have any lime juice here.
I know. I know.
We're gonna get scurvy.
Well, now it's time, John, that we're going to say that our watch is over. We're going down below decks, and we're hungry. We've been up in the rigging all day. We've been like
and
scrubbing
you've been
the deck.
just talking constantly up in the rigging. Yap. I've just heard his life story.
You ever wonder how? Yeah, it's just me up there, just like next to each other. He just said, hi, John. So first of all, we're going to have our drinks. Okay, so we'll start out with our drinks.
Okay.
Did you bring a warm beer? Did you bring a warm?
I did not bring a warm beer. I didn't have one.
Okay.
But boy, that looks delicious. God,
it's nice and warm. It's been out in my garage for a while.
I'll drink a warm beer though.
McDonald says that beer was a common ration and the daily allowance was 1 gallon of beer.
Yes. See, they had to stay drunk. It's just like the Wild West. Everybody had to be drunk because it was just so horrid.
Yeah. Well, she says that the beer issued to seamen was like the normal table beer on land, which was a small or weak beer of 2 to 3%. So it was like your 3-2 beer. 3-2 beer.
That's what we did. We came up on 3-2 beer, you and me. Kansas, for all its red and Christianity, Bible Belt, they allowed kids at 16 to drink. Or is it 16?
Yeah, 18. Yeah, 18
to drink 3-2 beer.
Yeah, that was great.
Those were good days.
McDonald says that the beer goes off quite easily in warm weather, which makes it cloudy, sour, and vinegary. So when the beer would run out, when it was available, they would also drink wine, or they would have brandy, or whatever they could get locally.
Rum.
Like just from rum as well was another one in the Caribbean. And the official issue being on the basis of a half pint of spirit equaling a gallon of beer. So a lot of trading out.
A pint a day if it was the spirits.
Right.
That's enough to keep you buzzed all day.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Half
and
pint?
and it'd be like there was a lot of like substitutions of like, well, if we don't have any meat, what do we substitute with, like the puddings, for example? A lot of switching out.
Oh boy.
And there were a lot of various mixtures, McDonald says, based on rum at the time. Rum, water, sugar, and nutmeg was known as bumbo.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Yeah, like, hey, want a bumbo?
Yeah, give me a bumbo.
And rum or brandy mixed with beer and sugar, heated with a hot iron, was known as flip.
Oh boy, that'll flip your stomach. Yeah. Rum, brandy, heated up?
And beer, right? It was
beer.
Rum, brandy.
Jesus, that's
with sugar in it.
I don't know. I'd drink it. Don't get me wrong. I'd drink it.
Maybe worth it. Should we go back just for a couple hours? And then also, John, we're going to be drinking hot tea.
Yes.
Just some black tea.
Yes, I have my cup here. Ooh, it's still warm. Still warm. So that's good.
Hot tea, believe it or not, was introduced to the Royal Navy. They let sailors drink it on their ships in 1790, which seems like a little late to me. But that was, and then
is this what I should be drinking now? The black tea?
Yeah. Go ahead and put that in there. One of those bags.
Hot water, but I haven't put the bag in. Ooh, this is good tea, Mr. McCray.
That is Harney and Sons English breakfast tea, which I
Ooh.
was just looking for like a traditional English black tea that they might have been serving. But
Okay.
again, you can imagine the water was probably slimy, and
Right.
it probably been like boiling all day, you know.
Ugh, slimy. You keep saying slimy.
Yeah.
Ugh.
One thing I kept reading about was that it would start growing mold in it. It would
Oh
start growing, or
God.
not mold. They would start growing moss inside the barrels.
Oh
Yeah,
God. With weevils, there were bugs everywhere and rats.
yeah.
It's just a nightmare.
And then, like we were saying, that the last thing you wanted was to drink water on the ship, but there would be the barrel up on the deck, which was called the scuttlebutt, which
Huh.
was where sailors could go and they could drink water, and you could drink your fill of water at the scuttlebutt usually.
And that's where you'd talk about the scuttlebutt.
Yeah, what was going on the ship and stuff. Where the sailor would be
Mm.
like, "I'm getting a drink of water," and we're, "Hey, what's going on? What'd you hear?" And that's
Yeah.
the scuttlebutt.
How's
Yeah.
your buggery? What's found any rats?
Yeah. And next, John, let's go with ship's biscuits. And we
Okay.
have.
Is that
I
in the can
actually.
here? Are we doing
Well,
this?
those are ship's biscuits, which I bought. Okay.
Yes. These came in a
And
can, which
and
were
that's hardtack. So these are the ones that I purchased, and then I also made ship's biscuits
yes.
for us.
Now let me grab that. Hold on a second. Oh, that's my bag of salt. You gave me a lot of salt, which I appreciate. Oops, I dropped my spoon. That's okay. I got them.
All right, so we have both. So this one, the round one, was the one that was I purchased, and then this is the one I made. And again, it's basically just flour, salt, and water. It was really easy to make, and that's the reason why they would go with ship's biscuits, because you didn't have to be a skilled baker to make this stuff.
Yeah.
And then once it got dry, it would last forever. But usually it got, like you were mentioning, it would get a little wet because it was packed in barrels.
Yeah.
And that's when weevils would get into it. And worms and that.
Okay.
It's not bad, really.
I don't know about this. Yours is harder. Yours is harder than the canned.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I can do you. This is great. Nice hardtack.
And they would you would try to soak it, for example. You would dip it in your tea.
Oh, I'm going to do that.
And then you could, that would soften it up, or they would like put it on the side of a table and bang on it as well.
What?
Well,
What do you mean put it on the side of a table and bang it?
And like break off a piece of it.
Oh,
if it was
with
really
a hammer.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Or with your ham. Yeah.
But, I mean, this is bland, but totally edible.
Yeah. Yeah. And that would, I mean, you'd hear about, like, even during the Civil War, they'd always talk about hardtack, or during the Napoleonic Wars, hardtack. That's what they're basically talking about, these unleavened biscuits like this. And
yeah, it's giving me a little bit of a matzo vibe, like a thick matzo.
Oh, nice. That's a good way to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
And McDonald's says it's hard to swallow, though.
Yeah, it's dry. That's you need your English tea, which is very good.
Yeah. And McDonald's says that the biscuit making process at Deptford Victualling Yard was on a grand scale, producing almost 25,000 pounds of biscuits.
Jesus.
A day in 12 ovens. And she says that to knead the dough, they used a device called a horse, which consisted of a circular platform on which a big lump of flour and water and dough was placed. And then there was a guy who would get on this thing and bounce up and down on the horse. And as that turned around, he would be kneading the dough, like this massive amount of dough.
I could see you landing that job. That's the kind of job that you would, because you've worked so many weird jobs.
Yeah. Riding the horse at a hardtack factory.
I liked dipping the hardtack in the black tea.
Yeah, it makes it easier to chew, for one thing.
Yeah, it's great.
I know that. And again, she even says that, quote, despite their hardness, and this is what you're saying, these biscuits were tasty enough. It was when they became damp that the taste deteriorated. And she says, and the livestock, i.e. the bugs, moved in. So the secret of keeping the biscuit dry and sweet was to pack it in airtight barrels. So you tried to keep those barrels dry. Next, John, let's go to our cheese. Okay, so they
now are there 3 of them?
There should be two cheeses.
Yes. Okay, I have them. I've got them.
And I'll tell you something about this cheese. What they would serve at the time, the British Navy, was something called a Suffolk cheese, Suffolk. Okay. And a Suffolk cheese is made from skim milk, which was cheaper than the full-fat versions of Cheshire or cheddar cheese.
Okay.
And McDonald's says that Suffolk cheese kept a long time, but even at its best was not popular. It was really hard. So the Suffolk cheese was really hard. And it was actually right. And it was she says it was badly or hastily made. It was either too hard to eat or turned soft, went bad, stank, and became infested with long red worms.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And they called Suffolk cheese Suffolk bang, because usually people would have to bang it on bang it on the table to break off a piece of the cheese, or else they would have to hang it above a candle to try to soften it up a little bit to even be able to carve off a piece of it. And there's even stories about people, who knows if they're really happened, but this is the story that they would carve buttons out of Suffolk cheese because it was so hard. But the thing is, Suffolk cheese, they stopped making it because it was so bad.
Nobody wanted it.
Right. So I had to go in to a cheese shop here in Albuquerque, and it's very hard to go into a cheese shop and ask for, or they were asking me what I was looking for, and I was like, well, I'm doing something on Suffolk cheese, and they were laughing about it.
They knew of it?
They knew of it, yeah. And they were like, that's an extinct cheese, and there's a reason why it's extinct. And at some point, we're going to have them on the show, because the people
we discussed this, and I'm all for it.
Yeah, they were just fascinating, really funny, really smart, and knew their stuff about cheese. And so I'd love to have them on sometime and do a whole show on cheese. So what they gave me was, this is a really good cheese. The first one's like a pecorino, but it's hard like a Suffolk. It's a lot better. This is good cheese. Let me just say that. But it's to give you an idea of what we would also get a ration of cheese.
Okay, which one are you doing?
I'm doing the pecorino.
Okay. This looks.
It's going to be harder. That the other one that they gave me was actually a Montgomery cheddar.
Oh, okay. So this is okay. Yeah, I've tried the cheddar already, which is good. Yeah.
Oh, it's a great shop. We'll get them on. And
oh my God!
Talk about cheese.
Both cheeses are delicious. I mean it.
Yeah, I know. So, but just know that on the ship, they went from Suffolk cheese, which was so bad and people complained about it so much, that they finally went for cheddar. They replaced cheddar, I think in the early 1800s. And so they started outfitting ships with cheddar cheese instead of the Suffolk cheese.
This is fantastic. If we had this and good beer and hardtack, I'm in.
You don't even want to leave the ship.
I'm in. Yeah. Let's kill some French and take their ships and get rich.
So the people at the cheese shop, they told me that is actually a Montgomery cheddar, which is a traditional heritage cheddar cheese in England. So they think that would have been similar when the British Navy finally went to cheddar cheese. That's what they would have had on the ship.
Well, it's goddamn delicious.
All right, Joe. So the standard meat ration was salt beef or salt pork.
Oh boy, here we go.
Twice a week. Okay, so you would get that twice a week.
Now the salt, is that what we're getting out now? Should I look for that?
Yeah, look for it. That's going to be in the. We're going with salt beef, which essentially is what we now call corned beef.
Oh, was
Okay.
it in the corned beef can? Is
Yeah,
that what
yeah,
we're eating? Okay, I have
yeah.
that. I'm ready.
Okay. So just so everybody could see, so corn means corn means like a little bit, in like corn in English. England English means a little bit. So we're talking about the bits of salt that was going in there. So, all right, are you having a little bit of
I mean,
it?
not great. It's cat foody, is what it is. Tastes like
Yeah,
cat food. And
yeah.
yes, I haven't tried cat food.
Um,
Put a little salt on because you gave me a bunch of salt.
are you you're
Is
gonna
that
put that on the corned beef?
yeah. I don't know.
Okay.
Anything I can think. That's all I got. I'm a
The other one
sailor.
would. I also sent us some salt pork here,
Okay.
so we can try that.
The corned beef is better with salt on it.
Is it?
Yeah.
So it's already salty. You would preserve it in brine, and put it in salt, but and usually it would come out wet. They say because the brine would preserve it and make it wet. So are you bringing out the salt pork now, John?
Yeah, I'm looking here. I found it.
Oh,
That's this, right?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay, that doesn't smell good.
Salty.
It's okay.
Again, a lot of salt with it.
Yeah.
Look at you. You're really you're having some hardtack with it. You're really really hungry.
I need to clean my palate after the cat food.
Then I also got us some kippers.
Oh.
And they say that they usually didn't want to use fish because fish would go bad. Fish has a high fat content that wouldn't preserve well on the ships. So I'm assuming for our meal right now, we've got like a barrel. We traded for a barrel of smoked kippers. Is what this is.
This the smell is so tough.
Mm.
Okay. I mean, it's the smell that I don't like.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So then we're going to eat a selection of puddings, soups, and salted veggies.
Okay.
John, there. So the first one we're going to do is peas pudding. So if you can see that, it's going to be that way.
All right. I'll find that one. Oh, here it is. God, take me to Vegas.
So this is
that's it, right?
That's it. Yeah.
No.
So again, it was a lot of the stuff they were eating were dried. They would pack dried beans, dried lentils, dried
and Professor
peas.
McCray, by the way, Professor McCray sent me a wooden spoon so that we would. You're so amazing.
They get the whole experience.
All right.
So this is a pudding, a pea pudding that's made with peas, an egg, butter, and salt. And again, it's put in that pudding bag, and then it's boiled for about an hour.
It's good. I don't have a problem with that.
It's a little dry.
Yeah, everything's dry. But it's fine. It's kind of like it's sort of like mashed potatoes made out of peas.
That's a good way to look at it.
And the peas, you made this?
Yeah.
Because it's not too much peas. Like the peas is not overwhelming. You got a good mix. You got a good eye.
It's basically, again, it's one of the only ones that have an egg in it. So they did have some chickens on there for eggs for these things, for the puddings.
That's why it tastes so good. It's the egg and the butter.
Yeah. Yeah, that one's a little different. Let's try the pea soup. And this is going to be like the pea pudding, but again, it has no egg or butter. It's just boiled down peas. So let's see if how that one goes.
See if I can find that one. Oh God, I just found the kippers again.
Did you find it?
Not yet. I've got a lot of receptacles here. And no, that's not it. Ooh, that was smelly though, whatever that was. No, that's the spotted dick or whatever.
All right. This is like at a dim sum restaurant for you.
I know. Huh. Wait a minute. I think I've been eating the soup
instead of the pudding.
Well, this is what I found. What's that?
That looks like the pea pudding.
Oh, so I think maybe I was eating the pea soup before.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yeah.
we'll try the pea pudding now and see how that goes.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Oh, I see. Yeah, this is drier. Yeah, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan.
That's the one with the butter and the. That's the one that has the butter and the egg in it.
Oh, I mean, I don't know how to describe it. It's dry.
Yeah.
It's. How would you describe that? I mean,
I don't know. It's not like anything I'm used to eating.
No. Mm-mm. And it's all mashed. It's like really dry mashed potatoes made out of peas that has kind of gotten a little cool. So it's like, it's got a little mealiness to it, or I don't know. And I don't like it.
Yeah. And I don't know, is yours still hot right now? Mine's gotten cold, so I'm sure
still a little warm, but I bet it's got to be better warm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now we're moving on, John. We're going to have a little salted cabbage.
I don't feel so good. I'm feeling a little. I'm not kidding. Okay. At least we're going to something mild like salted cabbage.
Well, it's going to be basically salted cabbage is sauerkraut. So this was another thing that they would eat, which I like sauerkraut.
Me too.
But the thing is, I don't know. I mean, how often they would eat this, but the sauerkraut was again something that was salted to preserve it, and that we could take in barrels on the voyage.
It's great. I love sauerkraut. Give me a nice Monte Cristo sandwich. You know what I mean?
Go down to the cook on the ship.
Yeah. Hey.
The next we have, John, it's something called burgoo, or that's what they called it. It's basically just an oat porridge. But again, if you imagine,
let me see one.
It's like the oatmeal. That comes in there. It's called burgoo, and you might want to put a little, if you have some sugar, if you brought sugar with you, put a little sugar in there for it.
Does that look right?
No, I think that's going to be the suet pudding.
Oh, shit.
So the burgoo is going to be...
I found it. Found it. Okay, this is what you're talking about right here, right?
Yeah. So that's basically just oatmeal. But again...
bowls. You're using nice bowls.
Well, even though we're on a ship...
Okay. Oatmeal.
Just kind of a plain oatmeal.
Yeah, I like it. Some brown sugar would have helped, but I don't have any. Yeah, great.
So now, John, we'll move on to the suet pudding.
Uh-oh. Why do I have a bad feeling about this? Just the name. Name.
Suet. So suet is it's a hard fat that's around the loins of a cow or a sheep.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
So I had to go to my butcher. There's like a local butcher here in Albuquerque. I went down there and I asked him if they had any suet. And he started laughing. He was like, "What do you use suet for?" And I told him I'm making an authentic English suet pudding. And he loved it. But anyway, he goes, "I don't have any now, but come in tomorrow and I'll have some suet for you." And so I gave them my name, and sure enough, I went in. They called me and said, "Your suet's here." I went in, I picked up the suet.
How much was it?
It was only like $2 because people don't really use suet.
Yeah.
But he was just loving that we were doing like an authentic English pudding for it.
All right, I'm going to try it.
But this is suet pudding. It's suet, flour, and salt.
That's terrible. That's just not... It's bland. It's edible, but it's just so bland. And the first taste you get is the fatty, you know what I mean? And that hits you right off the bat.
Yeah.
Maybe if I didn't know what it was, it would help.
I don't know. I mean, because they would, if you didn't have meat, they would substitute suet pudding. Oh,
I don't like it.
That's a little hard. It's like eating a really dense cookie dough or something.
Yes, that with no sugar. Cookie dough that's going to make horrible cookies.
So, John, we're going to pretend that it is a special occasion for our 60th episode. So the captain has ordered the cook to make us a little special treat, which is spotted dog.
Spotted dog.
Yeah. And spotted dog is just what it looks like. It's suet pudding with raisins in it.
Oh, it's the same goddamn thing? Shit.
Only it has raisins in it. So let's try a little spotted dog now.
Okay, it's got to be better with raisins. Raisins is makes it better.
Yeah, a little sugar in there or something to make it better.
That's good. And it's good for scurvy too, right?
Yeah.
So we're double Dutching it.
All right. So now...
Okay. I'm trying to remember the one that hit me. Something hit me. I think the kippers.
Was it a kipper?
I don't know. Something's gotten or the salted pork maybe. Anyway.
To think that you would have to eat like 5,000 calories a day of this
Jesus Christ. Well, yeah. I mean, if I'm up working my ass off like that, I'll eat anything.
So, John, now we're going to finish up. After we finish our meal, we're going to have a cup of what they call it. And this is, I think it's sarcastic. They called it Scottish coffee. Okay. And it's sort of, I think it was the English way to make fun of the Scots, kind of like when they call Welsh rabbit, doesn't have any actual rabbit in it.
Right. What is Welsh rabbit?
I think it's all just potatoes and it's all vegetables. But the idea is that they're making fun of the Welsh, like, hey, this is Welsh rabbit, but it has no well. Yeah. So go ahead and put some of that into an empty cup.
Like how much?
I don't know. I put like however much you want in it.
I'll put like a tablespoon.
I think you'll need more than that.
Oh, okay.
Because we're going to pour hot water into that.
Right.
And I'll tell you what it is. It's McDonald's said that they called it Scottish coffee, but it was burnt biscuit.
Ew.
And then they would just pour hot water onto burnt biscuit. And to give you a story about when I was making this, I had to burn biscuits.
Oh.
And so I had put the biscuits back in the oven when they were dry, and they weren't really burning that well. So then I put on the broiler, and I walked away for probably 3 minutes.
Uh-oh.
And I came back in, I see like a little smoke coming out of the oven. And when I opened the oven door, it was like a backdraft.
Oh my God.
All I saw was a ball of flame come up. I saw it just like yellow and orange. And I heard my beard and all of my whiskers on my neck.
Singe.
All like, yeah, like.
Oh my God.
And it was, this smoked up our house like nothing we've ever done.
So
like the alarms
themselves were on fire? Like were they flaming?
They were on fire.
Yeah. Good work. All right, I'm going to try it. I mean, it's okay.
It almost makes like a porridge or something.
Yeah.
You know?
It reminds me of like when you when you crack up a ton of oyster crackers onto soup, some like, like just, it's got nothing to, it's just water and biscuits is all it is.
I guess, yeah, if you were maybe just cold and you just wanted something to warm you up when you came off your watch or something, I don't know.
Yeah, I would take that. If somebody gave it to me, I'd eat it.
So that's another thing you could do with your hardtack would be to make that.
If you screw up the hardtack, you just make it into some Scottish coffee. Is that what it is? Scottish?
Yeah, that was the nickname for it, but that's not bad.
Not bad.
That's not bad. That's
not bad.
That's better than I thought it would be.
Yeah, and it ends on a good thing. Now, the high points for me were the cheese. The cheese is amazing.
Well, that's
I like hardtack. I'm a hardtack guy, it turns out. The sauerkraut I really liked. The pea, what was the good one? The
pea soup?
Was it the pea soup?
Like?
Yeah, I like that. I like the spotted dog. If it were warmer, I could eat the the pork. It was rough.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Maybe it wasn't hot enough. But overall, I could do this. I could do this.
You
don't give me any kippings or whatever they. What are they?
Kippers?
Kippers. Yeah. I don't want those. Don't get those anywhere near me.
Yeah, I'm surprised that it's all, when I was preparing it, it seemed like it wouldn't be edible.
Yeah.
But once you get into it, I could see I don't know, like years of eating this, how I'd feel.
Yeah.
But it's better than I thought it would be.
Yes. Well, and it's very bland, like English food, like, the stereotypical English food is very bland. There's not a lot of spice going on, which works in its favor, I think. It's kind of comforty, foody kind of vibe.
And McDonald actually said, she goes, what it is, it's all stuff that could be preserved and would last. In other words, it was stuff that people on land would eat during the winter.
Okay. Right.
So everybody was used to this type of food that they would eat, during the winter months, all like in their houses and stuff. But the thing is, the sailors would eat it all year round.
Yeah.
Because that's what they would have to take with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the biggest thing is the no water. That would be rough. No water at all, ever.
Yeah. You'd always want to have, I mean, you would if the beer ran out or if the spirits ran out.
Yeah.
But again, everybody must have been with all this salt. I can only imagine.
Everybody had to be dehydrated all the time and out there in the wind. God, the chapped lips. Imagine the chapped lips alone on that crew. How you doing, Pie? And then when you get the scurvy, it makes it even worse.
Yeah.
Everybody's just like, oh, the chafing. Just the amount of chafing alone.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right, John. So we have finished our meal.
Wow.
And now we would probably go back, maybe go up to the scuttlebutt, maybe.
A quick drink at the scuttlebutt. Maybe a quick poop off the side of the boat.
Yeah, they would go up to the front. It'd have to be the head of the ship.
Yep. Yeah, just poop off the side.
And then back down to our bunks and our hammocks. We usually got the standard issue was you would get 14 inches.
That
just
sucks.
Yeah.
That sucks. Yeah. I don't know. Have you ever slept I've never slept in a hammock, I don't think.
I love being in a hammock.
I like being in one, but I don't know if I could sleep in one. Like sleep all night in a hammock? I don't know.
It's the one I was sleeping in. It was like a large hammock. I don't know. These were like the little tiny hammocks that people would have, in the ship, in the whole of the ship.
You just lay on your back and you bring your arms into your chest and you just swing.
Yeah. I wonder too if I'm sure there were people that just never, especially if you were impressed off the land to go on a ship, that you never got used to. You were just always seasick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I would be that guy. I'd be miserable. But I'd eat my hardtack. I'd shove that down my gullet.
Go throw it up off the ship or whatever.
Hold it down. Wow. This was so impressive. so well researched and thought out. And your instructions, see, what people don't get is I get all these instructions that come with it.
Oh, yeah.
In Professor McCray's handwriting. And it's just great. It's just a great experience.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it gives you a different view of what was going on those ships. Like it wasn't pretty,
no,
but it was livable, I guess.
Yeah, you see how, because from afar you're just like, how did they do any of that? And then you get into the details. You're like, okay, it's miserable, but I see it. I get it, and it brings you closer to that time, and it's just fascinating way to dig into history. It's really cool.
And I guess they said that the one thing is, you might drown. There was always the possibility the ship would be sunk, or you'd possibly drown, but you always had your food with you.
Uh-huh.
So at least you weren't going to die of starvation. Like a soldier, you mentioned Russia before with the French army going back, and they didn't have food.
Right.
At least as a ship, you always had a hold full of food there.
Right.
To keep
until
you alive.
It ran out. And if you're out, on the Cape of Good Hope, looking to refit, then things get crazy. But yeah.
He just made a reference to the movie. But
yes, I did. Out in the doldrums.
All right, everybody. Listen, we love you guys. Thanks for listening.
This is Human Number 2 signing off.
And this is Human Number 1. Thank you for listening, everybody. This is our 60th episode. We couldn't do it without you. And hopefully we'll have 60 more and lots more food to explore. And I'll put all this stuff, some recipes, and also some photos of the food on our Facebook and on our Instagram for you.
Fantastic. Good work out there.
All right.
We'll have some
bon appetit.
Merkin and guests. We're gonna come your way.
Yeah. All right, guys. Love you. Talk to you later. John, glad you're back.
It's good to be back, Captain.
See ya.
Bye.